Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Denver Dzogchen podcast. I'm here again with Joseph Wagner, and today's episode is brought to you by Siddhi Energetics, which is one of Joe's wonderful companies that you should go check out. They carry lots of really high quality Tibetan medicine that I definitely use for myself, especially for sleep and anxiety. So go check that out. As also, they have some Chulin. So for people who are into that sort of thing, head on over there. And today, what I thought we'd talk about, Joe, is integration and post meditation. This is another really important part of the path. I mean, we spend most of our time off the cushion, most of us, right? So there's something that you've talked about before, mentioned this concept of, kind of on the cushion we focus on meditation, and off the cushion we liberate things. Yeah, right, we free ourselves from disturbing emotions. So there's lots of skillful means we can use, there's lots of methods, but I'll just leave it there and let you kind of get rolling with that subject.
Thanks, Dan. Good to see you. Glad to see that we're still doing this. This is great. Yeah, it's an opportunity for me to explore my own understanding or lack of thereof, and hopefully other people get benefit out of it too. Um, Before we talk about this stuff, I guess actually as part of it, I think it's very valuable as a Vajrayana practitioner to have a Tibetan calendar that points out like what the special days of the month are. So at least you know when Dakini Day is, when Guru Rinpoche Day is. These are like important days for making offerings. And then I like the Rigpa calendar, but there are many, and they usually contain the anniversaries of great masters. And today happens to be an important day on two fronts, at least two fronts. There are probably many, but today is the 88th birthday of Garchen Rinpoche, who we hold him as one of our gurus. He's definitely one of my teachers, and an incredible being who's one of the greatest masters alive right now. And 88, may he live for another 1,000 years. May his activity spread very widely, and may his realization be born in us, especially his incredible bodhichitta and love for all beings evenly. So I wanted to mention that so we can all feel grateful about Garchen Rinpoche being here in America and in our world. Uh, and the other thing is it's the anniversary of the passing away of the great master Taranatha, who's often thought of as Tibet's greatest historian, or one of the greatest historians. But he was also he's credited with having been a student of a great Indian Siddha, one of the last of the true Mahasiddhas named Buddhaguptanatha, who came to Tibet, met Taranatha, and because Taranatha was a master of languages, he could speak to Buddhaguptanatha in one of the Indian dialects, and many teachings that had never come to Tibet before came into Tibet through Taranatha and were spread widely as a result of his interaction with Buddhaguptanatha. And I just have a lot of faith in him and think he's amazing. So this is part, I suppose, of how we integrate our lives, our meditation practice on the cushion with being off the cushion. Part of it is to realize that every day is a little bit of a holy day. Some days are, widely recognized to be that. Like yesterday was the 25th day of the lunar month, which is the Dakini day, when we honor the transcendent feminine and the realization of the mother in all of us, and the potential for infinite love to be developed. And if we don't know about these days, then we just have to interact with only the Gregorian calendar, which is fine. But since we're trying our hardest to get out of samsara for the benefit of all beings, it's good to have these things in mind. So I wanted to bring those things up today. Uh, Really what we're doing when we're on the cushion, as you said, is meditating, right? We're applying the official or real techniques of Buddhism, whatever our tradition happens to be, to transform our own understanding of ourselves. And when we're on the cushion, the great thing is we don't have to do anything else. We can just focus entirely on whatever aspect of the path we're currently working on. And they all boil down to the same thing, which is to figure out who we really are in our own hearts. Who are we that last, well, we're speaking in conventional language because philosophically these things are, more sophisticated perhaps, but what is it that's the same in me that was the same when I was 5 years old? That's what the Dharma is really about, discovering that essence, whether we call it emptiness or we call it the Sugata Garbha. That aspect of ourselves that continues through time is what the Dharma is really about, right? And even time, and I say that, time doesn't really exist. So can anything continue through time? Anyway, the point is, when we're on the cushion, it seems that we have an opportunity to practice without any distraction. The whole idea of being in a session is that you are taking a break from your ordinary life. And, if anyone's a Buddhist practitioner or a meditator at all, then they know what to do with that. You sit still, you look toward, you recite mantras if that's your practice, you make mandala offerings if you're doing the nundro, whatever it happens to be. So when we get up off the cushion, that's when we really get to see what we got. When we're on the cushion, in a sense, it's comparatively easy. We turn off our phone, the computer is far away, we're not beholden to our boss for that half hour, 2 hours, whatever it is. And the same thing goes, of course, when you're on retreat. But when we get up off the cushion, that's when we have to apply a different set of skillful means, I suppose. Does this make sense so far?
Totally.
Yeah. And I'm just going to talk about it from my own perspective. I'm not sure exactly what great masters do. Their integration is different than mine. I'm just a regular person, but I'm really into the path. And I'm continuously trying to remind myself when I'm off the cushion that this is an opportunity. Today is a real opportunity. As I've maybe said before, we really only have today. Of course, we really only have ultimately this instant. But if we put pressure on it like that, it's such a fine point. It's easy to get distracted. But when we wake up in the morning, we come out of nothing. And when we fall asleep at night, we go back into nothing. So we've really only got this period of 18 hours or whatever it happens to be, in which we have to do our worldly activities, and we have to carry on with our progress becoming bodhisattvas who serve others. So how do we do that? I mean, it's a good question. And there are, as you said, there are many, many different types of skillful means that we can apply. I think the primary thing, the defining characteristic of a practitioner is to recognize that today is an opportunity. We can do one of two things if we want to boil it to the base. One is we can just do what we've always done in the past. Our habitual tendencies allow them to manifest our grasping, our fixation, our loves and hates, and we can try to get ahead in the world, arrange the objects on the desk of our samsaric life, and to the best of our ability. This is what ordinary people do, and it is if you do it in a loving way, it's not so bad. It's okay. But we have, as practitioners, a real opportunity to make today a way of moving forward. My teacher, Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche, he always said that when you start a session, you should give rise to the aspiration, I'm going to make progress during this very session. And when you get up off of your cushion, before you get up at the end of your session, you should review, how did I do in that session? I think, and was I able to sustain the meditative state? Was I able to allow thoughts to liberate? These kind of reflections, and then we can, encourage ourselves for the next time. It's exactly the same when we're off the cushion. In the morning, we, usually practitioners, they do their practice, their official practice in the morning or one of their sessions in the morning. And during that time, we should really give it our all. And when we get up, we should make the aspiration that not only do we live a life in accord with our vows and precepts, but that we can actually make progress on the path this very day. And if we do that, it's a reminder that we won't maybe perhaps get so caught up in all the grasping and fixation, which brings so much suffering to our world. The Buddha said that suffering is entirely caused by holding, grasping, grabbing, trying to get one thing and get rid of other things. This is the way we live all the time. So it's simply by making an aspiration in the morning, may today I really be a Dharma practitioner. That's easy to do, but as with all aspirations, and I'm a big fan of aspirations, aspirations are like shooting arrows into the future. You draw back the bow of your intention and make the aspiration, and then you let go. And then As a result, that arrow of aspiration is still flying during the day, and it allows us to recognize the incredible opportunity that today brings.
Yeah. And then just like at the end of the meditation session, at the end of the evening, we can review, how did I do today? How did it go? How present was I? How compassionate was I? It's like the story of that master who had a white and black stones and decided every day to see how many negative deeds and positive deeds he had done. And at the beginning, they were mostly black, but the more he kept track, the more they started to turn white till they were all white.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. The modern day, I would say, lifestyle guru Tim Ferriss,
Mhm.
he says anything that you don't pay attention to, anything that you can't measure, you can't change. And it's exactly like that. So this is part of that, you know. When we get up off the cushion, we need to have a lighthearted attitude. We need to have a sense of possibility that we can bring into today, and that's good for ourselves and also, of course, good for anyone we come in contact with because people feel so stuck in their patterns. When we have a sense of the possibility of life, it brings some benefit to others. And just as you say, exactly, at the end of the day, we can review, how did I do? Was today was I above 50% or below? And then as a result, we can be more psyched. It's not so much that we want to beat ourselves up. We've beaten ourselves up for eternity, but that we can try to do what is really essential in Buddhism, which is to wake up. And the first thing to the first step to take, which we can take every day, is to recognize how fortunate we are that we even know about this. You know, it's so rare. People are so caught up and they have so little time. And when they do have time, they feel, I mean, most people feel that, well, I need to have fun. I need to make it worth it, whatever. Our orientation can be slightly different as practitioners. We can give rise to a sense of gratitude. We have a precious human body. We have an orientation toward Dharma. We have even if it's not very developed, that is, it isn't in me, we have a sense of bodhicitta, of wanting to attain a level of freedom, a level of accomplishment, a level of peace for the benefit of all beings. And man, does our world need that. Wow, there's a lot of chaos going on. So by starting with ourselves and starting with an attitude of gratitude, and then following it up with this sort of bodhisattva orientation of like, I'm going to do today for the benefit of everyone. That's almost enough to make today worth it. I think of uh, I think of it as like paddling a canoe upstream, right? If you don't do anything, if you don't put your paddle in the water, then you're just going backwards. You can't help it, right? Our habitual tendencies are so strong. And even if we practice a lot during our meditation, maybe we move forward a little bit, maybe we don't fall back. But when we get up, if we're not putting the paddle in the water, we're going backwards. So we have to see today as an opportunity to put our paddle in the water, which means do our formal practice. It means give rise to our bodhisattva vow over and over. It means to at least attempt to see things as they actually are, illusory, right? When I see my mother, that's my mom. When you see my mother, that's some woman, right? Oh, that's Joe's mom. When some stranger sees my mom, it's just some woman, right? So by just reflecting on that for a second, we see that our ideas about things are just our perspective. And we can therefore sort of broaden our perspective, try to relax in our deepest essence, and remind ourselves, hey, this is just imaginary. It's like a dream. Last night I had a dream, and that was a deep dream. And then I woke up out of that dream, but I'm still kind of dreaming. I'm still seeing that some things are important and some things aren't. Some people are worth knowing and some people aren't. This is just completely false. This is a false view. And just by remembering that, we become a little bit more open-hearted, a little bit more compassionate toward others, and especially toward ourselves. That's where compassion really starts. And then we can make today as beneficial as possible. That's how I look at it.
That's great. Yeah, and it totally reminds me of Tulku Urgyen, as he says in his book As It Is, about how you can just open your sadhana in the morning and close your sadhana in the evening, and that way turn your life into a sadhana. To me, that was really like game changer for me. And then these methods like you're talking about, recognizing the Dharma dates, and the good news about like pure perception is even a so-called obstacle day is good news, right? Because you're purifying negativity. So having these kind of framings, and it brings me back to our last episode, we talking about faith. Really starting to step into a different world. When you realize this is kind of a dream, then you realize you can change how you see it. And by having, today has like an auspicious connection to Garchen Rinpoche because it's his birthday, therefore if I pray to him, I'm going to get more blessing connection to him. Now, just like we've talked about in the past, maybe there's truth in that, maybe it's just a placebo effect, but it doesn't really matter because it's going to benefit our path. And it's going to make us more mindful and have more faith and be more devoted. So why not step all in? I think a lot of times Westerners are afraid to do this, to like really embrace all these tools that are around us that can really make the path so much more rich and so much more fun. I think you've said this before too, like, even if this is all not true, which at least it was a really good life. And to me, that's so true, that it makes for a beautiful existence. Like, it's so much better than the idea of like just waking up and doing my stupid 9-to-5 job over and over again until I drop dead. That is, one way you could look at this. But if you look about with that Vajrayana perspective, that there's Buddhas and Bodhisattvas blessing you and guiding you, and that every day has special energies that you can use to cultivate your path, it's so much more meaningful.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. That's exactly right. We want to bring forth, and at first we really have to do this in kind of a hard way because we're so used to being adults and taking things seriously in a certain, to a certain perspective, which is really only our perspective. But we have to bring back a sense of childhood awe or childlike appreciation, just sort of openness. And they say a real meditator is, and this is a Tibetan way of looking at things, is like a child in a temple. Everything's so colorful and they're totally open to it. They're not holding, they're not classifying, they're just being totally open. We really need to practice this because we sort of, it's like we're swimming, but most of the time we're underwater. And we can only see a little bit distance, and it's all from our perspective, and it seems pretty cloudy. It's not sure. But once in a while, given good opportunities and looking for those opportunities with a sense of possibility in our minds, we bring our heads above the water and we're like, oh my gosh, the world underneath is just one aspect, and it's just a foreshortened version of what's really going on. I think this is why Vajrayana is such a powerful path and such a great opportunity, is that they say up front, hey, this life, it's like a dream. Our goal, to wake up from the dream. To wake up from a dream, first you have to know that you're dreaming. So we have to accept or participate in or experiment with this sense of, what if it is a dream? Looking into that and noticing that our perspective is just one of many perspectives, and that allows us to relax it a little bit. And it's mostly about relaxing in our daily life. And you were talking earlier about on the cushion, we meditate. That means we don't have to do anything else. We can just focus on our practice with 100%. We should still be light with that and do that in a loose way because it's more effective. It doesn't make us so stressed. But when we get off the cushion, it really is about liberation. It's important to understand what this means. Liberation is not shooting your thoughts down or trying to change everything in some sort of aggressive way. It's mostly trying to release our grip. All the time, we are steering everything. We are attempting to get what we want, get rid of things we don't want, and ignore everything else. And this exactly is dualistic fixation, which is the very nature of samsara. So the very essence of the path is the opposite of that, which is just to remind ourselves again and again, this is like a dream. I don't have to hold it as tightly. And as a result, thoughts and emotions, which are going to come naturally. Our brains are thought-making machines, and you cannot stop that. I reflect very frequently on an instruction I got from Erik Drew, who's a great yogi who lives in Hawaii right now. And he said to me one time, he said, thoughts are not a problem, but thinking is. And thinking, what is thinking? Thinking is linking. You have a thought, no problem. If you just keep your hands off of it, so to speak, your mental hands. If you just relax, that thought is just like a bird in the sky. It comes in from one side and it goes out of another aspect of our vision. Don't have to do anything, doesn't leave any trace. This is standard Dzogchen language, but it is so hard not to grab. So we have to really recognize, oh, I'm doing it again, and then just practice relaxing, being open, being free. We can do that anytime we want. We have to give ourselves permission, which is another thing that, practitioners listening to this podcast might do is in the morning when you wake up, give yourself permission today to take things just a little bit less seriously than yesterday. Just a little bit, even if that's 1 degree, 1 angstrom less, it's okay. Because that feeling of possibility that is created by doing just a little better at not doing anything than we did yesterday allows you to be even more faithful in that way. You mentioned faith before. The real faith is to just stay in this moment and not try to steer it so hard. And this is, God, that's hard to do. And impossible to do yesterday, very hard to do tomorrow, but right now we can. It's very loose.
And we can look at everything as the blessing of the Lama, right? So that's that other extraordinary means. If we can't just let go, we can tell ourselves that whatever is occurring is exactly what we're supposed to be occurring for our path. So if it's really difficult, then we're burning off some shitty karma that would have put us in the lower realms. And if it's really positive, then that's the blessings of the teacher. And so if we look at it that way, that's another way of letting it go. Like, oh, I need to fix this. Like, no, you don't need to fix it. You can let it be there because it's good news.
Beautiful. I mean, that's exactly right. And it's said all over the teachings that once you enter the path, and we have anybody even listening to this, whether they are officially Buddhist or whatever, or have a real guru or received instructions or empowerment, whether or not, if you're just interested, you've already entered the path. Once you enter the path, everything that happens is an opportunity. If it's tough, as you said, it's an opportunity to see it as a purification of karma, our habitual tendencies. And all we need to do in that is not react super strongly. Doesn't mean we're not going to react some, right? If you put your hand on a hot burner, you're going to jerk it back naturally. But we don't need to get involved in why did I do that? We can just have some faith. It's okay. Things are unfolding exactly as they're unfolding, which in a sense is how they're supposed to. And then if it's good things, give rise to great joy. I'm receiving blessings from the lineage. I'm receiving blessings from being alive, from having a precious human body. Just reflecting on these, what we call basic teachings, but man, they are the foundational teachings. And most people, they're just trying to get ahead. I need some Dzogchen. I need some secret instructions. It's much simpler than that. The Dharma, normal life is like this, and the Dharma is like this. And since we're used to this, then we have to be like, oh yeah, it's okay. Then we look away and again, oh, hey, it's okay. So what is the real thing to do? What does this boil down to ultimately? What the Tibetans call Drenpa, mindfulness, paying attention, being present, being present. I got a quote that I use a lot in my own life. It's not even from a Buddhist. It's from Ramana Maharishi, who I think is an incredible great master, Indian master, usually called a Hindu, but he was far beyond any classifications like this. He said, the past and the future are not real. Yesterday was the present to you when you experienced it, and tomorrow will also be the present to you when you experience it. Therefore, experience takes place only in the present, and beyond experience, nothing exists. I memorized this because I thought it was so powerful. We have only this moment. Now, we give ourselves permission in the morning by saying, okay, we have only today. I'm going to do the best I can. It's not exactly a carpe diem idea, but it's a sense of not having any more than today. And so being able to apply what we know as best we can today. That's a general. And then as you do that more, then you come into this, you sort of have a slight waking up experience from time to time where you're like, wait a minute, now is what's happening. And then in that moment, we have this opportunity to just relax just a little. And if you know how to recognize the nature of mind, those become one. And if you haven't received those instructions, it doesn't matter. Simply by relaxing, simply by extending our willingness to allow our hearts to be a little bit more open. This is really the path, as far as I'm concerned. And the path is mostly off the cushion. If you're in full-time retreat, then it becomes even more obvious. Every moment, every time you reach for the cup of tea, every time you turn the page of your text, you have this opportunity to again realize there's only this very instant, and I can have a choice. I can hold it and try to steer it and all the suffering that comes with that, or I can relax and and be a little bit detached, be a little bit open to a greater awareness of this instant. I really think this is the basis of it.
So you can really see how the morning session can just continue through the day, because what are we doing in practice except just coming back and coming back and coming back, whether it's mantra or the view or our breath, whatever. We're getting distracted and we're returning to it. And so of course in meditation that's a lot more intense and focused, but throughout the day we're still doing the same thing. It's just, oh, I've been distracted, come back, let go, with a gentle nature of just returning to the present and relaxing again and again and again and again.
Totally. And it's a special kind of relaxing. It's usually when we think relaxing, we think, take a deep breath, relaxing my body. Yeah, of course. We can also relax in our speech function. We can also relax in our mind, just recognizing the spaciousness of this room, the spaciousness of this environment we're in. Just allowing it to be a little bigger. It doesn't matter how much bigger, because in the moment of realizing, then everything is liberated, because there's only right now. And you're either on in terms of holding or off in terms of being chill. And the more chill, the more used to being chill you are. And the more easy it is to see whatever arises, whatever bird is flying into your thing, as not an object of something that has to be dealt with, but something that just is an opportunity. Who's doing the chilling? Me. Just be relaxed, open, 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 very relaxed, very free. We can, in fact, we can do it right now together. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to have any meditation instructions. We don't have to apply something, because if you apply something, there's the technique, and you're applying it. You can just be right now. Spacious, relaxed, relaxed outwardly in the body, relaxed semi-inwardly in the speech, in the breathing, and relaxed very subtly in the mind. Just relaxing, just letting go, very easy. And that's so awesome, right? That is the path. That is the practice. And we just forget. We forget, then we get involved again. And then sometimes those involvements last 3 years, and sometimes they only last 30 seconds. The goal is as frequently as we can. Oh yeah, I got a choice, but I only have a choice right now. And I can either, keep the needle on the record, playing that same song of suffering that we've been playing for a million lifetimes, or I can take an opportunity to just be like, oh yeah, and then needle comes off the record and everything is possible. Everything is open. The freedom is already in us. We just have to acknowledge it. Our mind is already spacious. We don't have to make it spacious. How could we do that? Not a thing. So we can't do anything to it. Can't stretch nothing. So we just have to be. I hope our listeners are participating in this. That makes me so happy that they even have an opportunity. Once you hear about it, it's like almost like a virus. It gets in you and it keeps coming up. And then you realize eventually, this is all up to me. Either holding or not holding is the whole of it. And that can only happen now. Can't happen tomorrow, can't happen yesterday. But in this moment, a little bit looseness, a little bit openness leads to that much joy and peace and freedom. Don't have to analyze it. Don't have to do anything with it. And that's our contribution to our own path. And it's a contribution to all beings, because the world needs this spaciousness. People are so focused. My way is the only way, right? We have to do it for everyone. We'll have to talk about that in the future, this way of this special kind of Tonglen, which is giving and taking. We have to start today, and we have to We have to take upon ourselves the opportunity and give ourselves the freedom right now. The more we do that, the easier things go, the less abrasive our world is. At least that's how it seems to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so freeing to realize you only have to worry about this moment, especially like in the modern world. We're leaning forward all the time, 2 steps ahead of ourselves, trying to constantly mitigate the future and attain things. And it's so stressful because it's impossible, like you said, because there is no future. It does not exist. But if we just stay in this moment, then we can handle anything. You can handle anything for one moment.
That's really,
Truly.
yeah, that's really true. And it's much easier to handle when you're relaxed. So we practice that internal relaxation. We're not trying to change our personality. Some people are very A-type, working really hard. There's nothing wrong with that. But giving yourself in the background, inside of those tendencies, is spacious openness. It's really, really, it's the only way. Otherwise, we're going backwards, just like I said. We got to keep on moving forward in the most easy possible way.
Yeah, that's great. It totally reminds me. I just saw a clip of Jim Carrey, and he said, "I was really, really lucky to get the part of Jim Carrey." He said,
Yeah,
"I
I
feel
like that.
like
I like that.
I'm watching myself experience this life at this point, and that's what that's like when you start. Yeah, you can still be that Type A personality. You can still be Jim Carrey. You don't have to become somebody else,
Well
but you
said.
no longer have to be so tightly bound up
Yeah,
in that."
yeah, that's exactly right.
All
That's
right. Well, this was beautiful and wonderful as always. And I'm
so
so
glad
glad
I
our
chat with
listeners
you
are
about this.
joining us. Yeah, it's so cool that we get to do this. And thank you to all of the people who watch and listen to this. Please subscribe, like all those things. That really helps this reach other people. And if you're ever interested in our group, it's an online group, so you don't need to be in Denver. So check out denverdzogchen.org if you're interested at all in practicing with us. We practice once a week. You can find out more about that by connecting with us through there. And also, this also is on Spotify and all of the other podcast places you might find us. So feel free to listen to us or join us on those places as well. Thank you so much for being with us. And thank you, Joe. We'll
Thanks,
talk.
Stephen. Be well.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.